No shocks. Going to be no shocks. I hate doing this blind.
The most important question is whether we are on track for a grade A. If not, the likes of Toulouse and Wakefield will somehow probably be above us. We could come to be back in the Championship.
That's 100% not going to happen. So when we did our financial part of, taking it back actually to the preliminary gradings, I did nothing on our financial aspects. I think we scored 1.35 of 5 and got a score, I think, of it was 12.45. And I was satisfied that, I didn't need to be doing anything because they were prelim. It was the following year's accounts that was our year end of November that mattered. And that's where I could make decisions around loans, converting to sponsorships, etc., to strengthen that pillar. So I think we kind of showed in the preliminaries limping in at 12th. And then I remember I was in the Maldives and there was some suggestion that Castleford hadn't been scored right and we're missing half a point. So we would have arguably been 13th. So when I did the financial work, that increased just the financial pillar and took us to 15.05. Of course, we lose the points for the Challenge Cup, 0.25. Our crowds, we've been pushing north. So there'll be other slight increases on occupancy. Whether we'll get to the next attendance milestone, maybe not. So it could well be, based on where our position is in the league, if we don't make the playoffs and we don't finish higher, it could well be that we finish shy of 15, but it'll most certainly start with the 14 and most certainly be in a Super League place. So there's no concerns whatsoever from me. Having said that, if we was to finish bottom of Super League, I would be saying I'd like to go back to the Championship because that's where I think we should be. If we finish bottom and London finished above us, it wouldn't be right morally for me to stay in and watch them get relegated, so I wouldn't do it. Might be a brave comment and our fans might not like hearing it, but we'll do what we can and fight and bring players in and do what you do to not finish bottom, whilst also working on our off-field points for the IMG, because I personally don't think that that's a long-term safe thing. I've gone on record before saying it anyway, so I don't think what Hull FC are doing this year is right. That's nothing to do with John Asiata or any other players that they may or may not sign from us. I won't go over old ground. I'm really pleased for John. But to clear all your decks out and be interested in how you're going to make a profit and not be bothered because there's no relegation, that for me is not sport and it's not right and it shouldn't be rewarded. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, you've got London, who came in knowing that they, under that circumstances, had no hope. And even though the scoreline suggested they got well beat by Salford, they didn't, and they fought like anything in that game. And obviously they fought well at home to beat Hull, and they're trying not to finish bottom. So I just think that's one element why this kind of no relegation and scoring thing just doesn't work. Whether other clubs would do that or not, I'm not trying to just single Hull FC out, but nobody else has done it who's also safe. I think sport's about winning, it's about competing. We didn't get to 15 points and then not bother signing Matt Moylan. There's news there'll be a signing announced this week who hopefully will arrive on Friday. You could argue we don't need to do that. It all comes at a cost, and I'm putting money in monthly now, and it'll be a big one next month with no home games, and that gets extended further because ultimately I'm looking at what do we need to do to get in the playoffs, not what do we need to do to not finish bottom or not get relegated. So whether or not this system remains but get some tweaks, and if you're a grade B you can get relegated and you can only get promoted if you're a grade B, I don't know. I don't have all the answers, but I think collectively as a group of owners in Super League and then the wider council members, I think we need to have a look at, is this actually right in its current form, and is it giving out the right messages and the right solutions, because personally I don't think it does.
As well as the website, are the club able to have an app that you can have your membership and QR code on? to save you misplacing or losing your card?
Yeah, the world's technology now, isn't it? I mean, most places you go to, digital tickets. I don't think there's any reason why we can't have a digital membership card as well as your physical card that you might want to keep. So it's just in that one place in your wallet. We are at the moment in negotiations with a new ticketing company that is part of RL Commercial that they've brought to the table, ticketing.com. Obviously we work in partnership with Leigh Sports Village, and there's other partners that use the stadium, so it needs to be something that's suitable for all. So that's being worked through at the moment, and part of that we'll have a number of interesting things. It'll be a lot easier to renew your membership, pick your shirt sizes, add things on at that point in time, maybe donate to the Elite Academy or join the Elite Academy as one of the membership plans that's available for that, and digital tickets and digital membership card, as well as your presentation box that you get, and also areas that are sold out like the North Stand, being able to resell your ticket when you're on holiday and you can't use it and generate some value back for that. So just watch the space on that one, but yeah, we're certainly moving forward with the times on digital. Whether or not we'll have our own app by that point, probably not, if I'm honest, but it's certainly something we'll be striving towards.
Great news that the club shop is being moved to its rightful place at the front of the stadium. I'm just interested in the process of this and whose approval was needed to make this happen, for example the council or Manchester United.
It's not really anything to do with Manchester United per se, in terms of they can say yes it can or can't happen, but they're a respected partner of the Sports Village, as are we. So you would always look at how anything you do affects anybody else in a relationship, because that's what keeps it healthy. I guess the people that manage that are LSV, in terms of managing the whole site and all the various partners that are on site. There's obviously issues around planning, and you can't just do what you want just because you're a council owned organisation, which LSV are. You've still got to follow all the protocols, perhaps even more so. It's almost like having your son working for you. He's got to do everything better than everybody else, so they're under the microscope more than anyone. So planning's a thing. So the ideal place in the beginning, while the process was followed, was to put it where we did, and then we could get use of it. And now the time's right where we can bring it here. It's slightly ahead of the full planning arriving, but you can have something that's movable in a position for a period of time without having permanent planning permission. But the intention is to leave it here all the time. So it just seemed the right time to move it now while we're away and we've got a bit of time, be able to get a ramp on to make it disabled access, because the unit itself was made for disabled access, but with it being temporary over there, it wasn't really right to put that on. So this is where hopefully it'll stay. We can give a good presence for the cycling that's coming to town this weekend as well. So yeah, just basically LSV wanting to see it there as an asset to the build, and then the council granting the planning permission, which hopefully will get done.
What is your view on the salary cap, and do you feel that it's currently set too low?
There's always the argument of running your sport to the lowest common denominator. The difficulty is at the moment is that everything's going south in terms of income coming into the sport, in terms of broadcast deals and various things, and we're working in terms of other ways of growing those numbers in assets that we keep, like the free-to-wear games and the Super League Plus platform. So there is a projection of intended growth to increase income, but at the moment the sport is too reliant on benefactors at most clubs, if not all clubs. So based on that, you don't really want to be looking at increasing how much can be spent. Ultimately, the players that can play the game at the elite level are the players that can play the game at the elite level. So if you increase the cap, there's the argument that you just increase how much you pay everybody. Does it really achieve more? I think we've dealt with a lot of those issues in around having marquee players. We've got 3 now, with 1 being homegrown and 2 away. Do we look at maybe increasing an additional 1? There's other things regarding homegrown talent. So I don't think it's $1 million miles away. If I'm honest with you, do I find it a little bit restrictive? I do, because we find it hard because we haven't had an academy. We can't benefit from some of those things that you see how many players Wigan fit in, and people say, how on earth do they do that? Well, because most of them they've produced themselves, and that's the same to say for some other clubs as well. So I think over time that'll become better for us. It doesn't mirror inflation. It hasn't gone in line with inflation, which there could be an argument towards, but it is discussed openly by RL Commercial and the RFL and the clubs at the last meeting that I was at. That was something that was discussed, but I just think that we can open up some other things, in terms of the restriction on the overseas, particularly the young ones, and maybe have further elements of dispensation in and around the cap, so that it's not mandatory that it's there to be spent. It's not something that player managers and agents can think, well, that many players you can spend and afford this, but there's ways of going beyond it if you want to. I know somebody like Mike Danton at Wigan there, who significant wealth. He obviously respects all of the rules and wants to look at how he can invest as high as he can, because he wants to complete being World Club champion, and he wants to compete with NRL clubs, and he wants to bring the best players over, and that's what will grow our game, whether it's one club, two clubs, three clubs do it. You've seen Warrington do it with certain players, us bringing Matt Moylan in. There's others across the game, so the more of those we can attract and put into it, the better. But I think the marquee rule deals with that at the moment.
Can we have player posters in this shop? My girls would love to plaster their walls with them.
Well, we should have player wallpaper then, shouldn't we? Really make it easier. I don't know why we don't have, actually. I mean, you got. I think we've got a new manager in the shop, Astrid, who obviously is, getting settled in with all the different things. Absolutely, send ideas like that in here. They're quite easy to produce. Something that players can sign and wouldn't be expensive to buy. But certainly things like wallpaper, bedding, curtains, things are all that we're currently looking at.
I think it was the World Club Challenge that had the light up posts, green conversions and red for misses. Could we maybe see something like that at the LSV?
Yeah, I've seen that and had it mentioned to me. It's something that you basically hire in. It's what it does add for the value of it. Each business will view things differently. Some people wouldn't put a band on and don't think that there's value in that, whereas we do. So in terms of what we spend and what adds to the value, it's not something we're currently looking at doing just because of the cost. I did look into it, but I think again now as well the games are becoming lighter at night, so they have less impact. So I'd rather stick with, if you said to me, would you swap the on-field pyros before the start of the game to have them when there is a conversion, then I personally wouldn't. But I think they do add value at certain times, maybe a big final or something like that when you're chucking everything at it.
Is there any chance of a similar trip that Hull KR are doing?
Well, for us, Amsterdam's a great place. I've not been since I was in my 20s, mind. No, we've been approached actually by. I mean, we was approached by Perth to do some kind of link with them. We've been approached by a rugby league team over in New York that we're discussing things with. It's a good story that OKR are doing, and I suppose everything has to start somewhere. But I'm a bit of a realist, and I think channel your energies and things. Will it get growth and support in Holland? Hopefully, and anything that broadens the spectrum of the game and the people that engage with it and look at it, then yeah. I think personally, I want to concentrate our efforts through with other clubs through Super League Plus, through working in areas. I liken it to we started doing something with AB Sundex in France, and we were spending too much time and energy into something that's far from us, when we've nowhere near capitalised on things that are closer to us. So, if we've got everything we can in this area and everything we can in and around the UK, then I'd look at, well, we've got players in PNG, what more can we do? The areas that we've got connections with already, and then when they're fully exhausted, then I'd probably not look for new areas. So that's in no way a criticism of it. I think it's fantastic. Get out there, but I'd probably more like to go to somewhere like PNG and play a game. I'd like to play Leeds Rhinos in South Africa, have the Leopards v the Rhinos, and see what appetite there is from rugby union people over there to watch fast, flamboyant-paced rugby league. So them are things that's in my back burner.
Over the years, you've signed many players. Who's the one that you've had to pinch yourself to make sure that it really happened, and who was the one who got away?
Jared Ain. The one that got away, that I was really looking forward to, and oh man, it was done when he'd come back from American football. Everything was done, and then there was a wedding on a date, and literally as the contract was to come through that morning. So that was the one that got away. The one that I had to pinch myself on, actually I was talking to the guy yesterday, and it's the one that really was the kind of catalyst here, and that was Fui Moi Moi. Because back when we did that, it was probably a minimum of 3.5 times the salary of our highest paid player, part-time in the championship, a player of his calibre. It was just phenomenal, and nobody could believe he'd come to championship and not Super League. And probably the most unique thing about it was it never got leaked. It's probably the only signing we've done where it's never been leaked. It was locked in my drawer, so it was good to see him yesterday. And that he's still over here. I told him at the time when we signed him he would be, but what a great player. There has been many, but that's the one I'd single out.
I'm wondering where you think realistically we will finish in the Super League this season. What would you be happy with as a minimum/maximum? I know how much you like to crunch the numbers and probabilities, etc.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a setback losing at OKR. In terms of what we thought and where we were going, but then you look at what's around us, you look at what games we've got left to play, you look at the players we've got coming back in, player we're bringing over. I'm confident that, look, if our best 17 are available on a pitch against 5 or 6 of the other team's best 17s, then I'm confident that we can do a job on the vast majority, if not all of them. So the key is to get to the playoffs. It looks difficult from where we are to a lot of people, but when we go through the numbers that the question states, then we do see a way of where that actually happens. And I also look at what's happening here. I'm not going to confirm anybody's going because that's not what we do, other than John, which everybody knows, and that's a significant one because it's your captain. But, if you're to take on face value some of the rumours and some of the other announcements from other clubs, and you think, well, there's a certain number of people leaving here or coming to their end, then I look at the year, I can't remember which year it was, with Leeds, when I think Maguire was going to KR, Sinfield was retiring, Peacock was retiring. There was a number of them leaving, and they was having not the best season in the final season, and I think they limped in and got about 5th, and then they won the grand final. And that's, it galvanises a group when it's going to dissipate at the end, and you want to come together and achieve something one last time before you go. So it's a big ask, but you talk high, you set your standards high. Our goals at the beginning of the season haven't changed. We started last year very well. After the first 2 losses, we went on a big run, and then we lost quite a lot. I think we had our injuries and won 2 from 9 at the back end. This time we've struggled at the start. Hopefully we get our players at the back end and we finish strong. So I would like to think we can make 6th place. I'd be disappointed if we didn't, spending the full cap and 3 marquees. But I won't be panicking if that wasn't the case. We'll reload for the following year and reset goals, but I think we can finish 6th or above, and if we do that, then I believe that group of people can still make Old Trafford.
What are your short-term plans to keep growing our club and to get our gates consistently around the 10,000 number?
It's a big challenge, but it's the goal. So the plans are to continue doing the things that are working well. So keep adding value to the memberships, keep the entertainment, keep having a team that's competitive and that can win. Keep looking at our commercial income streams, things we can generate. Bettering things, moving the shop is a step in the right direction. The new ticketing system be a step in the right direction. But winning does take care of everything, and the biggest success we've had was from winning the Challenge Cup. That's where a lot of growth came from. So if we do make the playoffs, it gives even more belief. It gets more people in. But the more people we can introduce here, we're upping our work in schools in and around Bolton, West Orton, fringe areas through certain initiatives. We're wanting to grow that aspect. Obviously, the academy is a massive thing for us as well, so that's part of our growth. So we're just trying to keep growing the club, and that keeps taking care of the numbers. And the dream is to have this where it is a lockout near enough every week, and that's kind of when it's self-sufficient and it doesn't need a benefactor.
Would you rather fight 10 squirrel-sized horses or 1 horse-sized squirrel?
Well done. Because that what do they call those?
Tongue twisters.
Tongue twisters. That further on. He sells, she sells. I couldn't have even asked that question. So, but would I rather fight 10 horse-sized squirrels?
Don't make me say it again.
Or 1 squirrel-sized horse?
Yeah.
Well, I'd definitely go for the 1 squirrel-sized horse. Simply because even having done karate,
So
if
10
you've got
squirrel-sized horses.
10 squirrel-sized. Oh, okay, so small horses are still be powerful, won't they?
Yeah.
All coming at you. So, my knowledge of karate, trying to get around different people, you wouldn't be dealing with 10 of them. And having watched a pack of wild dogs, which would be like 10 squirrel-sized horses, they rip you to bits in no time. So suppose if you've got one big thing coming at you, it's one point of focus, and you can try and move around from it. The real answer would be I wouldn't want to fight either of them, but I'd have to go for the 1. I think I'd have more chance. But what a question that is.